I love that, like you say, from the message, the unforced rhythms of grace and having those, even outside of this, this summer season, having those regular rhythms of rest. Um, how do you think about that, or how has that, as you've kind of moved through those different phases you've described, what are some of those rhythms that maybe you found or seen to be the most helpful for pastors that you work with?
I think the first thing is learning the value of being still,
Hmm.
of ceasing striving. I mean, when the psalmist David says, be still and know that I'm God, that word be still literally means to cease striving, it means shut up and shut down,
Yeah,
means slow down. And, we all have, understand the imagery of having like a mason jar and scooping up river water.
yeah.
And then you shake it up. And of course, it's really, really cloudy in there. But if you set it down on a table and you
Hmm.
let that sediment, you allow that jar to sit still for a few minutes, all of a sudden that sediment will begin to settle down to the bottom. And before, when it was all stirred up, there's distortion. I couldn't see through that mason jar. But
Yeah.
when you let it sit there long enough, all of a sudden that sediment will settle down to the bottom and you have a different level of clarity. You can see God differently. You can
Hmm.
see yourself differently. You can see the world and other people differently when you be still and know, when you cease striving. So, one of the things, in fact, I will admit, this has been one of the most difficult things I've had to learn in my whole life is what it means to be still. I
Hmm.
started off just trying to practice 3 minutes a day of shh,
Yeah.
just being still, slowing down, taking some deep breaths, trying to move out of my egoic thoughts where I had monkeys jumping through the trees and reminding me of everything I haven't done in my previous life, everything I need to be doing today and tomorrow, right?
Yeah.
We all have those. And then moving into 5 minutes, then moving into 10 minutes, then moving into 30 minutes, and moving into longer periods of time. The
Yeah.
point is not how much time you do it. The point is learning how to be still
Mm.
and being able to do that where you're not always having to be a productive machine. And so I would really encourage everyone, this summer and then moving forward, if you're not already doing that, or if you are, what would it look like to begin to extend that? There's
Yeah.
something about just even the powerful, I know it's a literal story, but there's a powerful metaphor behind it. When Jesus is asleep in the boat, right? And there's a storm, and the disciples, they finally wake him up. They're like, how does this dude sleep while we're all freaked out? Right.
Right.
And
Do
then
you
he
not even
addresses,
care? Right.
that's right. He addresses the storm and he says, peace be still. And I
Yeah.
think there's something of value of when for me to try to practice being still and then being aware of what is it that is disturbing me. What are
Mm.
the storms that are still existing in my soul that I need to address or be aware of or begin to live away from instead of living into, when
Mm.
I'm trying to be still?
Yeah. That's good. So that sounds like a daily rhythm, right? And
That's a
and
daily
finding,
rhythm of learning. Just some
yeah.
of the mystics in the past have referred to it as centering prayer.
Hmm.
It's a practice that's been taught for more than 500 years.
Yeah.
So where you learn to just sit comfortably with your eyes closed, you just use a simple word or phrase you begin to focus on. Like sometimes I'll just be still.
Hmm.
David, be still. And then you just hold that word gently for just a few moments. And then when you
Yeah.
become aware of the monkeys jumping through the trees, bring yourself back to your breath and to that very phrase right there.
Yeah.
And gradually you let that fall away. And you'll notice that for a few moments, you're not having any specific words. You're
Yeah.
not fighting any specific thoughts. You are literally entering into the rest that Jesus promised was available. And the more you learn to practice that, again, the goal is not to get really good at that. The goal is just to simply practice that. So that's one of the practices I recommend.